A woman sits motionless in the front row of Madison Square Garden, tears streaming down her face while 50,000 people around her scream and dance. Michael Jackson is on stage, but his eyes keep returning to this one woman who isn't celebrating. She's crying. And beside her sits an empty seat with a ticket that will never be used. Michael Jackson is about to stop time itself. But first, we need to understand why she's here at all. 3 hours earlier, Catherine Sullivan sat in her Queens apartment holding 2 concert tickets, trying to decide whether to go. Her daughter Jessica had bought them 4 months ago as a birthday surprise. Jessica, who'd been obsessed with Michael Jackson since she was 8. Jessica, who'd saved money from her bookstore job to afford front row seats. Jessica, who had died in a car accident exactly 6 weeks ago. Catherine was 42, a nurse at Mount Sinai Hospital, and she'd spent those 6 weeks in fog so thick she could barely function. These tickets were the last gift her daughter would ever give her, and throwing them away felt like throwing away the last piece of Jessica. So Catherine came. Not because she wanted to, but because these tickets represented something she couldn't name. She arrived at Madison Square Garden feeling disconnected from everything, found her front row seat, and placed Jessica's unused ticket on the empty chair beside her. Around her, people laughed and buzzed with anticipation. Catherine sat frozen, wondering how the world kept spinning when hers had stopped. When the lights went down and Michael appeared, Catherine didn't move. She just cried. Not excited tears, but grief tears. Because Jessica should have been here. Michael Jackson was 3 songs in, performing with precision and energy, when something caught his attention. One woman in the front row wasn't moving. While everyone around her danced and screamed, she sat completely still, tears on her face. This wasn't overwhelmed fan crying. This was pain. Michael's eyes kept returning to her throughout the song, and the more he watched, the more concerned he became. The woman's stillness. Her tears. That empty seat beside her. Something was very wrong. As the song ended, Michael made a decision that would shock 50,000 people. He didn't transition to the next song. Instead, he walked to the front of the stage, knelt down directly above where Catherine sat, and spoke into his microphone. "Ma'am, are you okay?" The crowd began to quiet, sensing something unusual. Catherine looked up, shocked that he'd noticed her at all. Her mouth opened but no sound came. "I can see you're crying," Michael said gently. "Is there something I can do?" The entire arena went silent. Catherine shook her head, trying to wave him off, but tears came harder. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I shouldn't be here." "Why shouldn't you be here?" Michael asked. Catherine looked at the empty seat, and that gesture told Michael everything. "Someone was supposed to be with you tonight," he said quietly. "Someone who can't be here anymore." Catherine nodded, unable to speak. "What was their name?" "Jessica," Catherine whispered. "My daughter Jessica. She bought these tickets for my birthday. She was so excited. 6 weeks ago, she died in a car accident. She was 20 years old." The crowd gasped collectively. Michael closed his eyes, and when he opened them, tears streamed down his face too. But Michael hadn't seen the most important detail yet. He stood and addressed his crew through his headset. "Stop everything. Turn on the house lights." The arena lights came up, illuminating 50,000 silent people. Michael spoke into his microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen. This woman lost her daughter 6 weeks ago. Her daughter Jessica bought these tickets as a gift. Now this mother is here alone, honoring her daughter's memory. Tonight, we're going to make sure Jessica's spirit is here with us." He turned back to Catherine. "Ma'am, what was your name?" "Catherine Sullivan." "And Jessica loved my music?" "She loved you," Catherine said. "Since she was 8. You were her hero." Michael made his decision. "Catherine, I want to dedicate the rest of this show to Jessica. She's not missing this concert. She's here. In that empty seat, in your heart, in every note. Will you help me celebrate her life? Will you let 50,000 people honor Jessica with us? Catherine could only nod through her sobs. Michael turned to the audience. For the rest of this concert, we're creating a memorial for a 20-year-old girl who should be here but can't be. We're showing her mother that grief doesn't have to be carried alone. Within minutes, technical staff brought a photo screen to the front of the stage. Catherine pulled out her wallet and retrieved a photo of Jessica. A beautiful young woman with her mother's eyes and a radiant smile. Moments later, Jessica Sullivan's face appeared on the massive screen behind Michael. 50,000 people could now see the girl they were about to honor. Michael turned to face Jessica's image. Hi Jessica. I'm sorry I never got to meet you. But your mom says you loved music. So this next song is for you, sweetheart. For every dream you had, every dance you practiced, every moment of joy you found in music. Michael began singing a ballad, his most emotionally vulnerable performance. But tonight it became something else. A funeral song. A memorial. A eulogy performed by the man Jessica had idolized. Michael sang directly to her photo, tears streaming, voice cracking with genuine grief for a girl he'd never met. Catherine sat in the front row looking up at her daughter's face illuminated on that screen, crying harder than she'd cried since the funeral. But these tears were different. They were witnessed. Shared. 50,000 people were crying with her, acknowledging her loss, holding space for her pain. When Michael reached the final notes, he broke down completely, unable to finish. He stood on stage and cried openly. Then something unexpected happened. Someone in the audience began singing the line Michael couldn't finish. Then another voice joined. And another. Until 50,000 voices completed the song together. The sound was overwhelming, a chorus of strangers united in honoring a girl they'd never known. Michael stood with his hand over his heart, listening to the crowd carry the song home. The silence that followed was profound and sacred. Michael spoke into the microphone. Catherine, would you come up here? Security helped her onto the stage, and when she stood beside Michael with her daughter's face on the screen behind them, she felt something she hadn't felt in 6 weeks. Less alone. Michael took both her hands. Grief is love with nowhere to go. You're crying because you loved Jessica so much, and that love is still here. She may not be here in body, but she's here in spirit, and she's here in you. Every time you listen to music, every time you remember her, she's alive. He turned to the audience. When you leave here tonight, hug the people you love. Call your parents. Tell your children they matter. Because this mother is wishing she could have one more hug, one more moment. Don't wait. Love people now, while you can. The arena erupted in agreement. Michael turned back to Catherine. What was Jessica's favorite song? Catherine smiled through tears. Billie Jean. She practiced the moonwalk until she got it perfect. Then that's what we're performing next, Michael said. And Catherine, you stay up here with me. Jessica bought these tickets to watch the show with you. Let's give her that. Catherine remained on stage for the next 4 songs, Michael occasionally checking on her, including her in this celebration of her daughter's life. For the finale, Michael held Catherine's hand and spoke one more time. Tonight wasn't the concert we planned. Tonight, we honored Jessica Sullivan. We showed her mother she doesn't have to carry grief alone. We proved that music is about connection, healing, and remembering those we've lost. He turned to Catherine. Thank you for sharing Jessica with us. She sounds extraordinary, and I wish I could have known her. But I know her through you. She was here tonight. She saw everything. And she's so proud of you. Catherine hugged Michael tightly while he held her, this grieving mother and global superstar connected by shared humanity. After the concert, Michael spent hours with Catherine, asking about Jessica, looking at photos, listening to stories. Before she left, he gave her something precious. The white sequined glove he'd worn during the performance. This is for Jessica, he said. Put it somewhere you'll see it every day. Remember that 50,000 people honored your daughter. Remember that music brought us all together. What Catherine didn't know then was that this night would follow her forever, and that glove would one day end up in a museum. Michael did something else nobody knew about. He established a fund in Jessica's name at Mount Sinai Hospital for bereavement counseling. He arranged for Catherine to receive grief therapy, all costs covered anonymously. And every year on Jessica's birthday, for the rest of his life, Michael sent Catherine a note remembering her daughter. Catherine returned to work the following week, and for the first time since Jessica's death, she could breathe. The concert hadn't erased her grief, but it had transformed it from isolation into something witnessed. She wasn't alone anymore. The footage from that night became one of the most powerful pieces of concert history, shared millions of times. People watched it and understood they'd witnessed something transcendent. Not entertainment, but ministry. Not performance, but healing. Catherine kept Michael's glove in a glass case exactly as he'd instructed, seeing it every day and remembering the night her grief was witnessed, her daughter honored, her broken heart ministered to by a stranger who chose compassion. In 2009, when Michael died, Catherine traveled to his memorial service. She was asked to speak, and her words moved everyone. "Michael Jackson saved my life," Catherine said, holding the glove wrapped in tissue paper. 6 weeks after my daughter died, I was drowning. I went to his concert because I didn't know what else to do. Michael saw me crying in a crowd of 50,000. He could have ignored me. Instead, he stopped everything. He turned a concert into a memorial for a girl he'd never met. He showed me that grief doesn't have to be carried alone, that music can heal what medicine can't touch, that strangers can become family when they witness your pain. Catherine held up the glove. Michael told me to keep this where I'd see it every day and remember that Jessica was honored. I've kept that promise. Now I'm returning it, placing it here with him, so wherever he is, he knows his kindness meant everything. That he saved a grieving mother by choosing compassion over performance. The glove is now displayed at the Grammy Museum with a plaque explaining that night when Michael stopped his concert to transform it into a memorial service, proving that music's highest purpose is healing. Catherine Sullivan still lives in Queens, still works as a nurse, still misses Jessica every day. But she carries grief differently now. Not as isolated burden, but as witnessed loss. 50,000 people helped her honor her daughter, and that collective acknowledgement gave her strength to keep living. No one knew this moment would end up in a museum, teaching the world that visibility without compassion is just spectacle, but visibility with compassion becomes transformation. Michael saw Catherine when she felt invisible. He honored Jessica when the world had forgotten. He transformed a concert into memorial because he understood that sometimes the most important performance is when you stop performing and just witness someone's pain. Subscribe and share this with someone drowning in grief who needs to know they're not alone. Tell us in the comments about someone you've lost whose memory deserves honor. Hit that notification bell for more untold stories proving that greatness isn't measured by who celebrates you, but by who you help when they're drowning in darkness. Because sometimes music stops being entertainment and becomes ministry. Where performers stop being stars and become witnesses. Where concerts become memorials and strangers become family. Share this story. Because somewhere right now, someone is sitting in a crowd feeling completely alone. And they need to know their pain matters, their loss deserves honor, and grief doesn't have to be carried by themselves. Michael Jackson understood that lesson. And on November 27, 1988, he taught 50,000 people that being seen in your grief changes everything.